Hello, I'm Steve Ryder and welcome back to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Rishi's away on holiday this week, so I'll be stepping into the host chair. I'm delighted to welcome Lydia back to the show, and for the first time on Racing Weekly, Katie Margarson.
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so obviously a few people and viewers and listeners will know you within racing, but for those that don't, just describe your multiple roles that you've had through the sport.
I mean, hopefully they know me for all the right reasons, right? So currently actually back at the yard with my dad as assistant trainer. I have also done some broadcasting work and also a qualified clerk at the course, which is an eye-opening experience. So yeah, there's not a lot I haven't had to go at within the racing sphere. Also ridden as an amateur, obviously, of course, as well. So yeah, jack of all trades, master of none, I think is probably the definition at the moment.
Yeah, a bit harsh on you. So how many winners did you ride in the end?
I think I had about 10 winners in the end. Beat my sister, so that's the main thing. I would have had to come back out of retirement if she'd beaten me and have another go, but yeah, luckily have more winners than my sister currently.
Amazing. And Lydia, you're at York last week.
I was.
For all of the days. How was that overall?
Yeah, it was great. Really, really good. Different weather, obviously, to what we'd all been used to. It was quite a shock when some water started falling from the sky on the Wednesday. I didn't know what was going on. I was ill prepared for it as a result. But yeah, I thought the racing was top class, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, in this episode we're going to be looking ahead to Sandown and Goodwood later in the show, but because it was such a good week at York, we've got a bumper edition of this week's Racing Recap. So the main place to start this week was the race that was billed as a bit of a match between Ombudsman and Constitution River, but in the end neither managed to fit in the top two. It was Item that beat Almacan narrowly late on. Lydia, your thoughts on the winner first of all, before we then talk of the race as a whole?
I think we still don't know how good he is. I thought that he hit what is now, it seems to be a characteristic flat spot, certainly at that trip. We saw that in the York Stakes as well. I think he finds plenty for pressure. He shapes as though he'll probably improve for 1.5 miles, but he's clearly very effective at a strongly run 10 furlong. This is an extended 10 furlong as well. I think he probably needs a soundish surface. I think it was good to softish on times, but I think he probably is even better on rattling just from the way he moves. And I think that probably the ground was a step too far for him at Epsom, but it might also have been the track. And I think we don't know how good he is yet. I do think that Almacan sat closer to the fiercer pace than very fierce pace than he did, however.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch, wasn't it? Because a lot has been brought up around pacemakers and action, missing the break and end up being alongside an Ombudsman rather than making the run in Hawk Mountain, going off ahead of Constitution River. But tactically, I did think it was really interesting how Colin Keane was at pains to keep William Buick in at one stage of the race.
Yeah, I think at the end of it, though, everyone did have their shot. I don't really think it was particularly unfair. I think it's quite a fair track at York. So I think eventually they all had a go at their shot. Might not have been at the timing they would have wanted it to be. But I certainly think, the track obviously suits him. He's 3 from 3 there. He loves it, doesn't he? So, that's obviously a tick in the box. But yeah, I mean, the pacemakers were certainly interesting through the whole, the 2 feature races of the festival, weren't they? The fillies as well. So pacemakers are a whole different topic, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly are. And it's interesting because Devil's Advocate was in there as well for Ombudsman, but then sat behind. And it was interesting, really, around. Well, I'm interested to see your opinion, really, around the whole pacemaker issue.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed Aidan O'Brien's sort of account of the series of unfortunate events which led to Constitution River over racing. They were expecting Devil's Advocate to lead. I don't think you could necessarily count on Action to do what he was required to do, because he's shown before that he's not really the most straightforward, and he really did fluff it, and then he was just on the outside being annoying.
I'm surprised people were quite so shocked about him doing that.
Yes, so was I. But quite often you have pacemakers that are essentially unsuitable for the task, don't you? Either horses that haven't ever led before or have shown themselves to be lethargic, and it's almost like, well, you're not good enough to do anything else, so you'll pacemake, but are you actually any good at it? Yeah, is it actually helpful? Hawk Mountain obviously went too fast.
Yeah.
They all got into a bit of a fight for the lead. And as I said, Al McCann, I think, was latched onto that front group. There was a gap between that front group of 4 and the back group for a while. It's not a huge amount, but bearing in mind that he was only beaten by a head, I do think it is something to factor in. I also think he's not as ground dependent as they believe him to be. I think the ground was on the sound side of good when he won the Tattersalls Gold Cup.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because with Bet365 at the minute, you could have a rematch between 2, 3, 4 of these, possibly in the Irish Champion Stakes. So Bet365 betting at the minute, Constitution River is favourite at 3-1. I assume mainly because they know that he's going to head there. Al McCann next in at 9-2, Item 9-2, and Ombudsman at 5-1. Katie, rematch at Leopardstown rather than York. I think that's the question mark with Item. We've seen him run to a brilliant level of form, but it has majority of the time being at York. Who would you be with?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, why not? Do you mean why not? Leopardstown's a fairly straightforward track. It's not, why not? But it does, because of his super consistency at York, for no logical reason really, it starts to make you question anywhere else, doesn't it? And I know that doesn't make sense because, again, Leopardstown's not a particularly quirky track. I haven't actually ever been there, but from what I see on paper. So there isn't any reason really why he couldn't go and back that up at Leopardstown. But yeah, you do start to question whether there's something about York. Maybe it's not even the track. Maybe it's the build-up. Maybe it's the prelims. The fact that you have the long walk across. Who knows? Maybe there is something about York that just does it for him. Who knows?
I just think it's too early. He's only 3, isn't he? And we've only seen him not at York at Epsom. And I think there are at least 1, maybe 2 reasons why he didn't really give his running there.
I thought he actually travelled really well into the Derby as well. I watched it back and actually travels well. And then it's just when he's asked for the effort, it's... Which
makes me think ground.
Correct. Yeah. I'd say ground more than stamina, because I then looked at his striding. He had the longest stride in the field. The finishing speed percentage was 101%. I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't try a mile and a half. The handicapper is impressed, is up 4 to 126. So they've rated the race around the right horses.
And I think Ombudsman is one of those horses, one of those relatively rare top-class horses who actually needs a very specific set of circumstances, and that is very fast ground. Of all the horses that ran in this race, as I said, I do think Item might like it best on the top, but I think that Ombudsman must have it fast because he's not able to show the same kind of level. He'll be fine on good, but anything that's tipping over towards soft, and he'll be at his absolute optimum on very fast ground. So if he went to Leopardstown and if it were fast, he's overpriced, clearly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those last 2 Royal Ascots have been rattling fast ground, haven't they? And I'd put his Prince of Wales Stakes victories as the best of his career.
Agreed.
I do think it's a shame, though, when they blame going when they're there and they go walk the track and they don't have to run him.
No, but then again, I would. I'd still run.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing.
But you know what you're doing, don't you? You're accepting the fact that he's probably going to be suboptimal on those conditions. Then sort of moaning about it afterwards doesn't really. I don't see the point. You know what it is.
Well, I agree. I mean, sort of mentioning it after. You're totally right. I mean, we all knew what's going to happen. At the same time, it's kind of like, it's a horse race. They are there.
Yeah. Why not take a shot? The others could have a bad day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think using it as a reason afterwards is you know what it is before we start.
Well, certainly if it's sort of framed in as any kind of someone else's fault kind of way, which I don't think it was in this occasion.
No, definitely not. Another impressive winner was Maltese Cross in the Great Voltage Stakes, managed to reverse Derby form with Christmas Day, defied a £5 penalty. Now, news broke yesterday they're going to miss the St Leger head to the Arc. Instead, is 6-1 with Bet365. We've seen that you can travel over to France and win a Group 1 over there. What do you think his chances would be in the Arc, Katie?
Oh, I like him in the Arc. And Haggis is no slouch at picking the right race, is he? So if he's missing that and going, if he thought he could, win the Leger, he would be going for the Leger. If he's thinking that it's his better chance in the Arc, or his best chance he's had for a certain amount of time in the Arc, then why not? And I do like him. I think he really shapes up well for that. I'll be honest, when you go back and look at the Derby, Christmas Day was just in the right place. And I think a lot of the last few years in the Derby, being handy has really been the place to be. Coming from the back in the Derby, so many horses I've seen in the last few years, certainly, where they've come from the back, have gone on and finished placed, have gone on to do exceptional things later in the year and just haven't been sat in the right place. It's a quirky track, it's tough, they're arguably still weak and babyish. This type of horse will get better as they get older, right? And if you're not, you know, it's a very difficult place to pick up on. And so I think I'm not surprised that he reversed the form of Christmas Day. And I think as an ARC contender, he's got a real shout.
Yeah, I agree. The handicap was impressed, up £9 to 124. I was just impressed with how he travelled into the race, because that was the question mark for me is, yes, we know that he finds under pressure. Yes, we know that he doesn't win by far. But it was the way that he just travelled into the race that was the most impressive for me.
I mean, Tom Marquand mentioned it afterwards, but I think William Haggas is so skillful at developing these See the Stars horses, and obviously he's had a load of them come through his hands, and he just seems to know when to push and when not to. And this horse, I think, has developed mentally. I think you can see that from the way that he went through the race. Tom Marquand also thought that it might be, to some degree, ground-related. He still thinks his best performance was winning in France. Whereas I think it was this one. Being able to, just the manner of it, carrying the £5, and it was just so straightforward. I think with going for the ARC, they're putting all their eggs in one basket, aren't they? In terms of if the rain really comes, they are convinced that that is not something that he definitely wants. You know, he ran pretty well in the Derby.
We don't know.
But and of course, there's all the sort of. I mean, I think William Haggas has already made the point about middle distance horses and their ability to get a place at stud, even if they are, and they usually are, the highest achieving horses in our calendar in Britain, and yet they're the ones that nobody seems to want to breed from, and yet they're the ones that hold their residual value, or everybody wants them around the world. So it makes no sense, but that's one of the determining factors of why they haven't gone to the St Leger. He would definitely stay at St Leger. He's probably more likely to get a sound surface there. I thought Christmas Day looked a bit burly in the paddock. He looked like he had had a break, which he had since the Irish Derby. I know Pierre Bonnard has as well, but he looked ahead of him slightly, to my eye anyway. And I think they are building towards the St Leger. I think the St Leger will really suit him, and he's definitely going to stay. I think he'd be advantaged by some cut in the ground there as well, but I think he can handle a sandish surface too. Between
the two of those heading towards the Leger, because I imagine that's the way they'll go with both Pierre Bonnard and Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, 100%. Yeah. And you?
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, proper grinder. Yeah, he's obviously conceding £5 to a stablemate there. I do like the way that they've progressed Pierre Bonnard with each run.
Yeah.
And when he was defeated on his comeback, I know everyone was quite disappointed because he'd obviously won those group races as a 2-year-old, but Aidan O'Brien was at pains to say, he'll come on for this run, and he'll come on for this run, and he'll come on for this run.
It's been notable there, hasn't it?
Yeah. He's been doing that a lot more, I think, with a lot of his horses. I think it's just the change in the guard of the stallions, to be honest. You know, you've got a lot more stallions that they're going to progress through and take the time, rather than before. They've done it all, haven't they? You know, your Galileos are, I mean, they're exceptional horses, weren't they? The fact that you could have a sharp early 2-year-old and they would continue to progress. Where I think his current crop of stallions are just the kind of horse that progress through and get better with age. And, you know, I'm certainly not, you know, going against whatever Aidan O'Brien says. If he says it's going to get better as he goes along, it probably will, you know. But it certainly has been a change of the guard with that and how they look and how they shape up.
I thought he couldn't doubt his attitude this time around, Pierre Bonnard, which is something I had doubted a few times during the course of the season. This time he did put it in, even if he didn't travel that smoothly. Yeah,
I did think headgear might come on at some stage. But then there's always the question mark of whether you then step up in trip and fit headgear.
Quite. But you wouldn't be worried about him staying, would you? Out of Camelot, by Camelot, sorry.
No, definitely not.
And Sultanina on the other side even.
Yeah. Kalpana, if you looked at the race card, it will tell you that Kalpana justified odds-on favouritism in the Yorkshire Oaks. But actually, it got a bit closer than what everyone was thinking at a furlong out. I know Steve Mellish has commented on the rides of Colin Keane on a Kalpana on this show last week and on Racing TV since with this. I thought it was a really interesting race to dissect, mainly because, on the topic of pacemakers, Katie, Sugar Island is a pacemaker who you cannot afford too much rope. She finished 3rd in an Oaks, and at one stage I think she's hit 3-1 in running to win this. So I felt like Colin Keane had to commit a bit earlier than he was expecting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, turning in, I know it's a long way from home when you turn in at York, but I thought this is squeaky bum time for the rest of them here, because she was a phenomenal amount of, way ahead. And she isn't useless. She had every right to be in that race anyway, regardless of what her job was to be there. And I feel like he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't. If he hadn't gone when he did, thinking, hang on a minute, this she isn't folding yet, and he hadn't got there, there would have been all hell to pay for. As it is, I think when you watch it back, once she got headed, Sugar Island, she fell away very quickly. The wheels fell off just at the moment that Kalpana popped her nose in front, which I don't think helped her, because she's suddenly gone from chasing a horse down, gets her nose in front, and that vanishes. And I mean, it fell out the back, very quickly from where Kalpana was. I think then that's given Sparanua a chance to come back, because she's suddenly gone, oh, there's nothing with me. Which I think is very evident. She then gets running again after a moment of that, but it does give Sparanua a chance to go. And as I say, it does make it look like he's timed it badly, but I think it was just bad luck that as soon as he headed that filly, if Sugar Island had gone with her for a couple of strides, I think she might have won by further. I don't think it'd have been as tight.
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch afterwards. I looked at the race IQ data, so Sugar Island ended up finishing speed percentage of 90.59%, so they did go too fast. But I don't know about you, I thought in running she actually got a chance of hanging on here.
Yeah, I must say that I noticed the change of pace there, because if you go back over the race IQ data, you see that Sugar Island went very fast, very fast, legless.
Yeah.
Whereas looking at it, I thought he went very fast, steadied it, and then kicks a long way into the straight. And so, like you, there was a moment when I thought, are you actually going to be able to hang on? And then it became very quickly evident that that wasn't going to happen. I think that everything that Steve Mellish said is absolutely spot on. I think that he has gone on far too far out on both the first two starts this season. I think potentially, though, he learned not, as Steve was saying, not because of anything he did, but something he was forced into, to delay her challenge in the King George, and discovered that she's got a very sharp turn of foot on good to firm ground. Now, that doesn't mean that presented with a set of circumstances, as you say, in the Yorkshire Oaks, he's got to chase. He's got to build the gap, and everybody else is going, well, go on, you're going to have to do it, aren't you? You're on the best horse, and the only way we're going to beat you is if you do something wrong. And having the effort of having to make that bridge between the chasing pack and the leader meant she was really tired at the end, and so was vulnerable. I mean, it's not. She's done really well in terms of she's enhanced her reputation, I think, in terms of loads of things have gone wrong, and she's still found a way to win. But it's clearly not her best performance. Her best performance is the King George. Colin Keane was talking afterwards that he thinks that she might actually now in her maturity be better on a sounder surface, so that she can showcase that turn of foot. So, they're looking for 3 filly and mares at the British Champions Day. They've also got the option of the Arc as well. There's that too.
Yes, the Yorkshire Oaks has a really good record going into the Arc as well. I was checking last night. So Enable won it in 2017, having won the Yorkshire Oaks. Sea of Class won the Yorkshire Oaks, finished second behind Enable in 2018. Enable then won it, won the Yorkshire Oaks, finished second in 2019. Alpinista then went on to win it in 2022, and then Mini Hawk obviously won this and then finished second in it last year. So it's a really good stepping stone heading towards the Arc. What sort of chance would you give her if you went to the Arc?
Just saying all of that as well. Sorry, just that's a sidebar from what you just said. Is it makes me wonder about that sort of like is it that in Europe we're quite happy for mares to go 1.5 miles, but for residual reasons, or maybe just the fact that they are increasingly being bred that way. 10 furlongs has become the god for the colts. The Prix de Jockey Club is obviously now 10.5 furlongs, albeit Ace Impact went on to win it's just when you list those fillies like that, it's just very interesting, isn't it? Albeit I think even going back to the likes of Ligera and the horses like that have run off their face in the Arc. Sorry, coming back to the question you actually asked me. I think she's got a huge chance in the Arc. I think she's going to have to be played late, and hopefully it's the King George kind of ride. Wherever she goes next, it is the one that I think will see her to best effect. And I don't think it is a criticism of what happened in the Yorkshire Oaks. It had to be done. You had to bridge the gap, and
he'd look worse if he hadn't got there than if he's got there and then got beat. And I mean, Sparanoa's, you know, Jim Boulder is not silly, is he? He's not bringing a horse over for that race if he doesn't think he's got a chance. You know, I know she was a big price, I think. But yeah, she's no slouch, is she? You know, I think people are forgetting that in the whole thing, saying she hasn't won that well. Well, Sparanoa's not, you know, not useless, is she?
Yeah, I think you can upgrade her run given how Mini Hawk ran. I know she's been slightly inconsistent this year, but I thought she just ran her race.
Yeah, I think she was I thought she was a bit off the pace though, Mini Hawk. I think if she'd been a bit closer, it might have helped her a bit. I'm not saying she would have beaten the front two, but I do think she was quite a long way out the back. I think looking back, you know, especially with how the race panned out, and like I say, the fact that they had to go for that, you know, Sugar Island quite early. I think Mini Hawk was on the back foot immediately from when they've turned in.
I'm not sure her head is fully in the game this season. It's been very interesting watching sort of Pat Cummings in the paddocks with her.
Yeah.
She obviously is needing a lot of TLC, and I'm wondering whether it's that arc to Breeders' Cup kind of thing that's happened.
Was she like that last year?
No, she wasn't.
I didn't think she was.
She definitely wasn't, and that's why it makes me wonder whether that quick turnaround from, I mean, you'd know more about this than me, but sort of like backing off at two huge asks and having to, and you know, some fillies, some horses can shrug it off, and for others they just find it a lot.
I think it's a difficult one to get right, because I think sometimes you say you'll have a filly like Mini Hawk, you'll do, and then maybe not go to America and decide, right, we're going to keep her now for next season, and then she doesn't train on, right? And then you regret not having done what you did while she was running well and the fire is hot and, you know, doing it all. You know, I think my dad's been guilty of that sometimes, when we've gone, right, we're going to put this away for next year, and then it's not worked out next year and you think, oh, we should have.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. So you kind of can't blame them for doing what they did last year, and it looks great. But yeah, then whether that's impeded or whether she'd have done this anyway.
She could have done, absolutely.
You know, if they'd have put her away, maybe she is not.
I could be attaching to a reason. Yeah,
and I mean, I think also fillies are funny. I mean, she could have a dud year this year, and if they bring her back next year, I don't know what their plans are for whether they'll do that or not. But if they do, she could end up doing really well next year. I think fillies always have a lull year. I think if you look through most fillies' pedigrees, apart from the standout ones, obviously, when you look through their pages, they've had a dud year, whether that's been they've done amazing as a 2-year-old, a dud 3-year-old, and they come back and sparkle as a 4-year-old. I think they all seem to do that, fillies, much more than say the colts and geldings. So whether she's just having her flat year, I mean, I'd take it as a flat year, right? I'll have her if you don't want her anymore. You know, I'd love to have a horse having a really flat year like that, you know, and that's it, isn't it, really? I think we're sometimes a bit hypercritical, and actually she is coming up against some very smart horses, you know, but I do feel like she was slightly further back. I think if you could have, even, you know, the great Ryan Moore, if you'd sat down and said to him, look, if I'd given you the option now to put you here, further up, would you take it? You know, looking back, and probably would. But, you know, you obviously run how they like to run and hope that's how it pans out. And that's the thing with these staying races, that's the difference, isn't it? That it does make a big difference where you're sat.
Yeah.
Especially when they blow it apart themselves.
Well, yeah, because you'd arguably say she underperformed in the King George because she sat too close to the pace. Maybe that was in the head going into it as well. But we've discussed lots with regards to tactics in the Yorkshire Oaks. There was a distinct lack of tactics in the Nunthorpe Stakes because Baccio has one way of going, and it's from the front. Yeah,
that was, I mean, just a demolition job, really, wasn't it? It makes his victory at Royal Ascot look even more crazy off that mark. You know, like, they had no chance at Royal Ascot, did they? With how he's just blown that whole thing away. I was watching the race and just adamant, they were like, they're going to catch him. They're going to catch him. Because it's happened so many times in these races with the Americans, hasn't it? You know, where they go off at this blistering pace that we don't really go off that hard.
Can't.
And they just do. and I was the whole time, they're going to get him. I mean, it was just a demolition job, wasn't it?
It was.
See, it's funny. I backed Starlust, and at no point of the race did I ever think he was going to get there.
Did you not?
No. I thought from sort of after a furlong, I was like, no, because the question mark around Baccio was whether he could do it on slightly softer ground. You've seen it with these American breds previously, they do need it rattling quick, and I thought that was the question mark and the reason to take him on at a short price.
Agreed.
But after a furlong, I was like, no, that was a stupid decision to take him on. I mean, he was just rapid to 20 mile an hour, looking at the metrics, like 2.25 seconds to get to 20 mile an hour, and just sustained it.
It was also the body language of Juan Hernandez at about halfway. I was just kind of like, you've got loads left, haven't you? You've got loads and loads and loads and loads left. And I thought the same question was the one. And I know that the connections, Caitlin Ward, who is Wesley Ward's daughter-in-law, was saying, if the horse can get out and into rhythm, she thinks he'll be fine on the ground. And for her, the start was crucial. There was a bit of a scary point in the stalls as well, where he did get upset very briefly. Who was next to him? Kevin Stott. They owe something to Kevin Stott because he grabbed hold of Baccio,
which is what they used to, isn't it?
So that was that. That enabled Baccio to run his race. He was terrifically impressive. Imagine if they bring him back on fast ground, which is what you might more usually get in an Unthorpe. I think he'd be outstanding. In a way that how the race was run on the day, and a bit like Swaran Nua, who I think you can argue, because she didn't gap at the right time because of the race was run, was unfortunate not to perhaps win the Yorkshire Oaks. You can definitely argue in the same kind of way in this unusual race that Time for Sandals didn't finish second, because a load of things went wrong for her, particularly at the start. Yeah,
that's where it's really interesting to dissect on how easy your run through has gone. Kieran Schumacher was stopped 3-4 times on the way through, just like Ross O'Ryan was on Spire Nua.
But was it a good thing, given that if you tried to chase Baccio earlier?
Yeah, would you have blown up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So was it actually a good thing? That's what I'm saying. On the day, I think she was unlucky, but was she actually?
We're just not used to that. I mean, I know somebody always front runs, and we're just not used to that, how they go off that hard and just keep going. We are so used to hard luck stories in sprints, aren't they? The common theme is, when you're talking about it is you can make a case for any of them, because everyone can get stuck, even if you're the best horse in the race. That's kind of almost the frustrating thing about having a really good sprinter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can lose even though you are the best one on the day for a bad run.
Oh, it's like run staff. Johnny Portman, how unlucky he's ran some absolute stormers this year.
I would hate to have a really good sprinter, just because it's that stress, isn't it? Of are they gonna, get out and actually get their chance to have a go?
Yeah, Rumstar's in the form of his life, isn't he? Don't you think?
Yeah,
it really is. He used to run well in a specific set of circumstances, and now he's running well when circumstances don't suit. I really hope he gets a Group 1, and it's clearly very important to Johnny Portman as well.
And I love it when you get horses like that, where everyone's like, please.
Absolutely,
yeah. Baccio is 7-4 with Bet365 for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and you'd imagine as long as he's not drawn out in the car park, he'd have a really good chance of winning the Breeders' Cup.
I don't know enough about the scene to be able to have a confident view, but clearly he looks like a very special horse.
Yeah. Notable Speech was probably quite a special horse. Won the City of York Stakes, won 9 of his 18 starts. This was the 6th Group or Grade 1 win of his career. He just needs to avoid Ascot, doesn't he?
Yeah, he hates Ascot. I mean, he just doesn't like that stiff straight mile. No. It isn't for him. And like you, I think this has got the kind of horse who's being in danger of being undervalued. Now, clearly he's not a absolute superstar, but he is a proper top-notching Group 1 who, given his set of circumstances, and they are actually relatively broad, they're not niche, he can win. So I thought it was really impressive in the Lockinge. He's clearly effective at 7 furlongs. Charlie Appleby still sort of nurses some sort of bruises about the July Cup. He still thinks he's a horse that would have been capable of winning a race like that had everything gone right. He loves a fast turning track in America. He's very effective at it, and he is a proper reliable Group 1 horse, and he stamped his authority on the City of York, and that was a deep City of York.
Yeah, it was.
It was good to see, wasn't it, actually, because like you say, he seems to just get quite a lot of grief, that horse, actually. People just don't seem to stand by him when time and time again when he comes out and actually does the job. I like the City of York though now, because I have to say the fact that it's only the 2nd Group 1 over the 7 furlongs now is pretty cool. Obviously last year was the first time it happened. And, because sometimes you do get these horses, don't you, that are really niche to that 7 furlong trip. And I think it's about time we had a 7 furlong Group 1. Obviously, it was only the foray before that, so you only had the one in Europe. But Notable Speech, is such an adaptable horse. Been all over the place, America, Canada. Really cool horse. And I feel like the fact that he's finally won the City of York feels a bit more like people are going, oh, okay, fine.
Yes, yeah.
Which seems like it's silly that it's taken that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool horse.
Yeah, he's 5-2 with Bet365 for the Breeders' Cup Mile. They'd also have Opera Ballo for that as well, so it'd be interesting to see where they're going to go with both of those. I mean, they both obviously ran at Royal Ascot as well, so they could well pitch in together.
Notable Speech all day long for me.
Yeah.
I think he's just more straightforward mentally.
Yeah.
Reliable, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think Opera Ballo is very, very talented, but I think he's more vulnerable to events, so he could get lit up.
Yeah.
I think Notable Speech has much more of a bomb-proof kind of mind.
Yeah.
I thought 10 Bob Tony, who is also carving out a career as a proper Group 1 horse, ran really well on a track over a trip that doesn't suit him as a combination. So I thought that was really good. I thought Lake Forest ran his race, and Marvel Man clearly on that ground showed what he's capable of doing. And Zavateri still has an autumn in him, and hopefully they can find a mile race. So maybe something like the Joel Stakes could be something that would suit him well if they don't want to stick at Group 1 at this point.
Yeah, because Zavateri's even got an entry for the Celebration Mars this weekend as well. And if they're going to retire at the end of this season, which they've announced that they're going to stud anyway, then I'm not against them just running in. He's already won his Group 1s.
No, true, why not? Yeah, absolutely.
He obviously had that setback, had to miss a bit of time. I thought ran a cracker in the Sussex Stakes as well.
Agreed.
And yeah, just the 7 furlong experiment probably didn't quite work.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which way going into the race. I had quite an open mind about it, but yeah, coming out of it, like you, I think the mile is better for him.
It is quite a specialist distance, 7 furlongs. I know we've had a couple of them, Dad's had a couple of them, and it is almost a nightmare having a really good 7 furlong horse, because you're either always dropping back to the 6 or always having to stretch to the mile. So it is quite a niche distance, isn't it? You've kind of got to have a bit of both, and does show how versatile Notable Speech is, for the fact that he seemed to run the same race that he always runs, regardless of the distance.
Yeah. I think it's class, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the thing. And you hear a lot about these milers, they could have won a July Cup. Like you hear about Kingman and Frankel and probably Bo Echo when he retires. Like, they could have won a July Cup. But actually, the fact that the City of York now is a 7 furlongs over Group 1, they can prove that they've got that bit of pace as a 3-year-old and as an older horse. On the opposite end of the scale, the Ebor...
Yay!
The stayers for Lydia. Daiquiri Bay beat the Wathnan pair of Hopewell Rock and Opportunity. The Ross Orion had some good mounts this week, Sparrow being one. He obviously had his winner with Blue Cavossier as well, but this apparently was the one that he wanted to come back for when he appealed that ban.
Yeah, that's what he said in the post-race interview. It's the first time I've really seen him smiling all week. I mean, he really wanted to win the Yorkshire Oaks for Jim Bolger, so that he felt gutted by that. But he was absolutely delighted by Daiquiri Bay. It was clearly a plan that he and Alan King had hatched together over a long period of time. This is a horse that had run really well in the Melrose previously, has blossomed as a stayer this time around. Ross Orion understandably quite fancies the Melbourne Cup. Alan King less so, but it sounds as though Hopewell Rock will certainly be going there for starters, and I think probably has the capabilities needed, the pace and the stamina to be able to deal with that kind of thing. But yeah, it was a tremendous finish. Daiquiri Bay, Hopewell Rock, Opportunity, absolutely tremendously excited. I really enjoyed the Ebor.
Of course you did.
It was,
not as much as the Melrose, but I did enjoy the Ebor.
It was a really great race, and I love watching someone like Alan King pull it off. When you look back through what he's done with the horse this year, he must have been itching to run it, because you can go and win races with him, but you want to protect that handicap mark. I think on the opposite side of the scale, that's why Opportunity didn't win, is that he has gone and ran, which is fine, and won his races, but that then it does cost you. Like I say, the fact that Alan King has sat on his fingers and not declared this horse or ran this horse anywhere else is a real testament to planning and it paying off and pulling it off.
As well, probably.
Yeah.
Given the distance.
Yeah, and you could do what Opportunity had done, and not to say it was so tight in the finish that but that is ultimately those couple of pounds and that one extra victory has made the difference, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's great.
It was. The Pre-Morny is set up quite possibly one of the races of the season, hopefully, in the Chieveley Park. Senorita Bonita, I thought, was incredibly impressive, won by 4 lengths. I know the setup of the race might well have suited her, but this sets up an unbelievable race if we get Sun Goddess, Senorita Bonita and Limatango all coming in to the Chieveley Park.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Senorita Bonita, I mean, whether it was just flattered by the fact that the horse in the front was dropping back at the same time as she seemed to get a turbo boost, basically, from somewhere, didn't she? It was quite phenomenal. And actually, going back to your stallion point, though, with her, she's a Star-Spangled Banner, so a sprint stallion, and her dam is ruler of the world. So I think that's why you often now getting the mares being stayers, because if you put them to these sprint stallions that way round, seems to be producing these incredibly fast, hopefully, stayers. It'd be interesting to see what she does. Obviously, she's been very explosive at 6 furlongs. And her and Sun Goddess, if they go to the Cheveley Park, would be phenomenal, right? Sun Goddess was super impressive in the sales race at York. I mean, to come from where she did and pull out and just go past them like they're standing still. I know she's a Group 1 filly, and I know so she's entitled on paper to just do what she did, but she still did it, right? And just simple, straightforward. They've both clearly got incredible turn of foot. To watch them together would be amazing. Now, whether Sun Goddess will go there, because obviously she's got an entry for the Moyglare as well, and whether they want to test her stamina a little bit and go there instead, I don't know. But if they came up against each other in the Cheveley Park, that would be very exciting.
Yeah, to give you the odds with Bet365 for the Cheveley Park, because you'll group in all those fillies in there together, as well as Libertango, who obviously was a good winner at the Lowther Stakes. Just for the Cheveley Park, Sun Goddess 15-8, Senorita Bonita 9-4, and Libertango 7-2. If you're looking towards the Guineas, now I haven't put Senorita Bonita in this because I think she's speed rather than stamina, but you've then got Libertango as 16-1 for the 1,000 Guineas, and Sun Goddess is 6-1 for the 1,000 Guineas. For me, I think it's going to be around Aidan O'Brien is how Victorious comes back, because looking at pedigree, for her to win a Queen Mary over 5 was unbelievable. But
Agreed.
you've also got the question mark, the fact that she's had a setback.
But there's also plenty of time, and she's at the right place, obviously. I think of all of those fillies, I tend towards your thinking. I like Senorita Bonita most for the Cheveley Park. I think she's got everything that you need for that. I think she's got a terrific burst of speed, and she seems very straightforward. I do think Libertango, of the two, they met each other obviously at the July meeting. I think of the two, Libertango is more likely to be able to stretch out to the mile. And I just feel like, obviously on paper you can rate what Sun Goddess did really highly, but it's easier to beat up vastly inferior fillies, even when everything goes wrong, and look that impressive, than it is to actually get in a race with fillies of comparable ability. And that's what I wonder about Sun Goddess. And I also wonder about the Sun Goddess route, and what does the placing of Sun Goddess tell us about what Aidan O'Brien thinks of Sun Goddess. Now, you can argue it two ways. He quite likes ensuring that his 2-year-olds become tough and hardy and are better able to deal with a full season at 3. And that's certainly what he's doing with Hafner, obviously. At the same time, some of the placing makes me wonder whether she's not really as high in the pecking order as the 1,000 Guineas market would suggest she is.
I agree. I thought it was really interesting. When I loaded the prices for that, I was not expecting Sun Goddess to be the favourite of the 3. I'd have put her as outsider of the 3 when I looked at it. It's interesting you say around Aidan O'Brien's tried and tested route, because it's normally the debutante, the Moyglare, ends up being the fillies mile later in the season. Like that seems to be the Alpha route. I know that Alpha was obviously beaten by Green Empress at the weekend, but it's as if she's the Guineas filly for next year, and Sun Goddess, they're just cracking on in these sort of...
I see, right. I think actually that maybe he just wanted her to have a nice easy win. Maybe psychologically he went, do you know what, she's done her Group 1, we bought this and we can get in this off this. That's quite clever. Rubbish, and she can have a really he can get her in the race like he did, involve her in the race, and then she gets to pull out and go past them like that. I mean, what a confidence boost.
Well, there's lots of reasons. I mean, there's sort of like, he mentioned the money afterwards, obviously, cool, more short of a penny. And I think that the fact that she's by Sioux Nation as well is also a powerful driver, isn't it? It's just kind of like, she was in the sale, you could buy her. Let's not get into Group 1. Group 1 horses running in sales races and how much owners have to run for their own money in sales races.
I do think a confidence boost isn't a bad thing for a filly.
No.
And if that, it'd be interesting. Like I say, it's just unusual because isn't something they normally do, is it? And we've all gone, oh, you know. Yeah. And actually, like,
Lion in Winter did it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Which is what makes me think sometimes it is just an ego boost. Yeah. You know, some of those horses aren't gonna. You know, some horses thrive for getting in it, getting stuck in, learning how to race and fight, and other horses, it's going to be from having a confidence boost, and it does depend on the horse. And I like to think one of his strengths is the fact that he knows his horses well, and whether he's just gone, do you know what, two-prong success to this is that she has a winner, we pick up a nice pot, and she has a confidence boost.
Definitely.
I do like her.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it is. It's just when I loaded those prices, I was expecting Senorita Bonita and Libertango to be favourite. Okay, so I'll throw for you for anything else that took your eye over the weekend. We had action over in Ireland, over in France, the undercards at York as well.
Oh, no, mine was just the Senorita Bonita victory. I just thought that was very impressive. Really enjoyed watching that. Enjoyed the fact that Simon Crisford had a dig at the fact that he'd get Ed off the licence next year and have a real good time with her. So yeah, that made me laugh. And yeah, just can't wait to see her do more. I really enjoy watching these 2-year-old fillies, particularly at this time of year when you get to have all the hopes and dreams of what's going to happen next year, and then whether that comes to fruition or not. And I thought that for me, that was my favourite performance of the week, to be honest. I really enjoyed that.
Perfect. Lydia, should we talk about the Melrose?
Thank you. I'm actually going to talk about it too, and the other one will surprise you. So the Melrose, absolutely. I mean, I think Infrad, he'd been growing up before your eyes with every kind of run that he'd had. I think he learned a lot at Goodwood last time, and I think we saw what he could actually do this time around. He's clearly a high-mettled horse. You saw him beforehand, and if you weren't familiar with his demeanour pre-race, you'd have been worried, oh, this horse is going to, not settle well enough to be able to get the Melrose trip. But he was absolutely fine, massively authoritative, and I think he could be, one of those horses that can move on from the Melrose into Pat and Company next year. And I don't think that he is necessarily, a horse that is only effective at an extended trip. I think he could be effective at 12 furlongs, just in the way he goes through a race now. And I just want to mention some of the other ones that I still think Limestone has a future. He's a horse that's played at group level. I think he's a decent horse who's still quite raw, seemingly. And in terms of stayers for next season, both the runners, the second Galilean Quality and Who's Lope, I thought really sort of shaped for future reference as horses that you might want to go forward. And the other one, which will surprise you, is a Rapperhole Gold. Yes, a 6-furlong 2-year-old. Oh. I know. But it's mainly because of Michael Dawes. It was great to see him have a proper horse, in those colours. A horse that obviously hasn't been straightforward. The only reason he's a racehorse is because he's been gelded, because they just couldn't do anything with him, even when he was being broken in. That's obviously going to limit him in what he can do as a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. So it's the Mill Reef only with a penalty this year, and then next year they'll have to pick and find their way. I think they're confined to. It's only the King Charles III that they can run in at Royal Ascot, isn't it? Yeah,
because this was the whole Mission Central dilemma, because you can't run in the Commonwealth Cup as a gelding, and you can't run in the 6-furlong race, the
Golden Jubilee.
Yeah.
Not the Golden Jubilee, is it? Platinum
QE2
Jubilee
Stakes.
Cuna's at the second stakes,
as a 3-year-old, which I think is a proper quirk of the Royal Ascot schedule.
Yeah, and good thing for Mission Central that was the case, because it seemed to be the perfect set of circumstances that enabled him to get his Group 1 win. So let's hope it's the same for Rapperhole Gold. I'm not sure it will be. He looks like the kind of horse that might be better at the 6-7 rather than the 5-6.
Yeah, definitely. But loads of ability. I'll just chuck in a couple. I liked Al Nair winning the Lonsdale Cup. I thought it was really interesting the fact that William Buick was riding him for the first time, and he rode Vauban, who beat him 2 years ago, and Trawlerman, who beat him the year before. Is quite symbolic, I think, the fact that William Buick managed to get him home, because it was a completely different race than he normally runs. Normally he travels really well.
Yes.
It's a question mark on how much he'll find, but he was one of the first off the bridle but stayed on well. And then Aventure beat Diamond Necklace in the Prix Jean Romanet. And I think a lot of the headlines afterwards was the fact that Diamond Necklace was beaten. But Aventura, I think, she's a brilliant mare.
Top class horse, yeah.
And it's as if we just swept the result under the carpet because Diamond Necklace was beaten. I'd be interested to see on figures how far they'd rate Diamond Necklace's performance in comparison to the Nassau Stakes, because I'd say she ran to a very similar level in that race, even though she was beaten at 2-9.
This of all the races that you sort of told us that we'll be looking at, this is the one I've only watched once, so I really want to have a look at that properly.
Yeah.
But like you, we know that Aventura is a really good horse, and also Diamond Necklace has just been meeting a similar set of horses in similar sets of circumstances and doing it straightforwardly. You know, she has been tested a little bit more each time. Yeah. This is a whopping great test that she hadn't encountered before.
I always think it's a shame when that happens, when they decide to, you know, talk about the loser rather than focusing on the victory. It happens so often in racing, where we fixate on why one must have underperformed and actually not credited the winner, which I think is a very credible winner in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that this is a classic example of that.
Yeah,
definitely. And that's a nice way to finish a bumper edition of this week's Racing Recap. So before we get into our weekend preview, just to let you know that our sponsor Bet365 have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race from 8 AM on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you out at bigger odds. Full terms and conditions can be found on the website. So we'll be looking at races from Sandown and Goodwood this weekend. We'll kick off with the Solario Stakes. It's a Group 3 over 7 furlongs. Has a brilliant history. Previously won by the likes of Field of Gold, Two Darn Hot, Massar and Kingman. If we go through the market, you've got Rock Montreal heading the market at 7-4. Sonic Angel 2 from 2 for Simon Ed Chrisford is 5-2. Sergei Diaghilev is next in at 5-1. Breacher at 7-1, and then the most experienced in the field, Alfred Wallace, next in at 8-1. Katie, who do you like in the Solario Stakes?
Controversially, I think it's worth having a cheeky little look at Dover Street. He obviously was second in the Convivial, which throws up some incredible horses, as was talked about extensively last week. So, yeah, I mean, not suggesting that he's suddenly going to go and win this, but certainly as a little one to watch in it, I think it'd be very interesting because so unexposed. And yeah, like I say, the Convivial is an incredibly strong race and throws up incredibly impressive horses year after year. No reason why it won't this year. I just think it'd be interesting to watch in this.
Yeah, currently available. Big price, 25-1 for Dover Street.
Trust me to be the outsider.
Lydia, for you?
I don't have a strong view in this race at all. I think that probably Rock Montreal will probably win it. It's a very boring answer, that. I suppose what the unknown is, I was looking at the weather forecast for Sandown. There seemed to be like a lot of rain in the area, and I know we're due a lot of rain at some point. And it was pretty fast when he won at Yarmouth, and he looked like he enjoyed that kind of ground. So that would be my concern. So I'd be... At the moment, in terms of if it was a soundish surface, I'd be thinking Rock Montreal. He's really well related. He's a half brother to Sandonato, who Roger Varian trained to finish third in a French Guineas. I think he looked really comfortable, really strong in the final furlong. I think Sandown, therefore, is going to suit him really nicely. But if it rains, that's a complete unknown. And I think that throws things up in the air slightly.
And Sandown's a funny track when it gets very wet there. Because obviously you've got the jumping track there as well, which obviously affects how that gets treated all winter, and does mean that when it turns quite quickly there. Yeah. So it wouldn't, you know, and obviously with the way we've had such a dry summer, obviously watering has been happening, had to be happening in order to keep us raceable. So I wouldn't think it will take a lot to turn tracks, to be honest. I think that's going to be the interesting thing, is that when we do finally get the rain, how quickly it turns these tracks. Be an easy enough track to get through though when it is wet, but certainly I think it's going to be fascinating to see so many of these horses who've never, these young horses who've never seen anything more than lightning fast ground, isn't it? And we just have no idea. So it'll be interesting to see that alone, won't it?
The likes of Sonic Angels 2 from 2, but both on the all-weather. Sergei Diaghilev, like Aidan O'Brien's, just seem to go on any sort of ground whenever they then see them. I was really impressed with Breacher with what he did at Salisbury as well. It seemed to be fairly green, but power on at the finish. I thought he was quite a big price at around 7 to 1.
Can't dismiss him, definitely. Agree with it. Think that he's going to stay really well next season. I think Sergei Diaghilev needs a mile now.
Yeah.
That would be my concern for him. And Sonic Angel, you know, he did really well from a wide draw to control the race at Kempton, but he beat nothing, and this is something completely different.
It is. We'll then move on to the Atalanta Stakes, Group 3 over a mile for the fillies and mares, and I thought it was quite a strong race looking at the field. A majority of these are jocked up as well, so I assume they're intended runners. Moon Target heads to the market with Bet365 at 9 to 4, beating only a couple of lengths on both of the starts this season by the likes of Precise and Blue Bolt. You had Kontiki, who I thought was given a peach of a ride by Ryan Moore last time. Machine Murphy's jocked up this time at 5 to 2. Secret of Life, 3 from 3, including a course and distance win, is next in at 4 to 1. And then you've got Calendar Girl, who won the Dick Hearn Stakes on her reappearance at 5 to 1 as well. And 7 to 1 bar, and that's a bit harsh on horses like
Agreed.
So Regal, who I think is a really talented filly, but the rain would be a
Absolutely
worry.
right. That's she was the one that made me go and look at the forecast.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real question mark for her. I thought when she ran in the Michael Seeley, she's quite a fizzy character as well, and I thought that she might get away with it round the bend in the Coronation Stakes, but they obviously didn't feel she was ready for that kind of thing, which I definitely get. I'm not sure Sandown is going to give her a particular set of circumstances that are going to suit her. You know, that's the stiffness of that mile, even if she gets well positioned. And she's got the Secret of Life, who's likely to try and want to make all as well, because she's the course and distance winner and a very straightforward horse. And why wouldn't you take advantage of that? I think this is a hell of an Atlanta. I'm really looking forward to it. This is my favourite race of the weekend, actually. And I like Calendar Girl, and I also like Pacific Mission, whom she beat.
Yeah.
So I like that form coming in, because Calendar Girl was a really good winner of the Oh So Sharp. She's quite fancy for the 1,000 guineas. She obviously had a setback. We didn't see her. She's ran in the Dick Hearn. She looked like she relished that trip. I think she'll stay a stiffer mile really nicely. And Pacific Mission was not as well positioned as her, I think, and was running her down late on. And this is a horse that was good enough to place over in America and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Fillies. And I think she's coming back to some kind of form as well. So those are the two that kind of brought me into this race. But I think it's hellishly competitive. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was when I just threw out 7 to 1 bar. I was like, I feel like I need to talk about more of these, like like Pina Sonata down the bottom. Like there's really talented fillies and mares in this.
Yeah, you can make some very strong cases for a lot of them, can't you? I mean, the only rogue one I've got a lot of questions about is, and I don't feel like he would bring a horse, whether he brings it or not is obviously remains to be seen yet. Like Henry de Bromhead is not going to bring a horse to Sandown for no reason, and he's got Falara in it, who hasn't been seen for 340 odd days, and was placed obviously in some listed contests, won a listed race, and then hasn't been seen for that long, and is a very interesting rogue throw-in from what appears to be out of nowhere. If it was anybody else's obviously from here, I wouldn't potentially be looking twice at it, but it's very interesting that it's Henry de Bromhead feels the want to come over to Sandown with a horse like that on paper. Looks very interesting, and not that I would be putting any of my money on it, but I would certainly be watching with interest anyway.
He's got a great record sending horses home to the UK full stop.
Yes.
But particularly on the flat, I would always have a second look.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Gerard Mosso's got Gaga Girl as well entered in it as well, who isn't to be dismissed either. So I think it's going to be, as I say, the race of the weekend for me.
Yeah. Celebration Mile at Goodwood.
I apologise.
But this is a Group 2 run at Goodwood, 17 remaining entries. Distant Storm heads the market with Bet365, obviously placed in both the 2,000 guineas and the Irish 2,000 guineas. Got back to winning ways last time in France. No Bo Echo to worry around this time, Distant Storm. He's 2 to 1. Zavateri, who was 5th in the City of York last week, is 4 to 1. Cheyenne, really progressive. Next in at 5 to 1. The only thing I'd have about, if you look at Cheyenne, is the fact that Clifford Lee is jocked up on Boiling Point at a bigger price on the BHA website. And then you've got a couple of course and distance winners, Seagulls 11 at 7 to 1 and Kirat at 8 to 1. And I think it might be one of those that you're interested in, Katie.
Well, yeah, I mean, had quite strong feelings for Cheyenne, actually. I know, obviously, as you said, Clifford Lee, but I feel like Clifford Lee would go for Boiling Point anyway, just on their history.
Yeah.
I don't think Carl Burke would be afraid of running the two of them. I think getting £6 from your elders is an awful lot of weight at this point in the year. Obviously, we know he likes Goodwood. He won during the festival, he won the Group 3. And I think you can make a lot of cases for him. I was, though, very surprised to find out how short he was. I was then very shocked that Quirat is a bigger price than him, who, let's not forget, was last year's Sussex winner. I think we all sort of just gloss over that and keep forgetting that he actually did win that. He is 2 from 4 at Goodwood as well. Obviously, that stat slightly altered by the fact that he decided to run twice at this Goodwood. Yeah, I'm not so sure, really. The Lennox run was a good run and arguably wasn't the place to be on the front. And then by going the following day in the Sussex is a bit of an ask, as both of those horses that did that discovered. So would ignore that, really. I would suggest it's more of a 2 from 3, really, at Goodwood. I was all for, absolutely going to Town of Shame until I found out he was a much shorter price than Quirat, and then was suddenly like, But yeah, Carl, I would say he will happily run the 2 against each other. I don't think he's the kind of trainer that will pick one or the other, especially as they're 2 different owners. Not surprised Clifford Lee is going for Boiling Point. He's much more of a known entity, isn't he, than Cheyenne at the moment. Carl likes to have a plan, and I feel like this probably looks quite a good part of it. Whether that's to go and win or not remains to be seen, but certainly to be part of this be part of his plan. I think Carl's pretty good at doing that, and I wouldn't be surprised if this horse isn't in the first 3.
Yeah, see, I really like Shame as a horse. That run at Chester behind Constitution River it has worked out unbelievably well. I just thought it's been really progressive so far. And if it was the other way round and Clifford Lee was jocked up, I'd be really interested in him at the prices, but that does raise a question mark for me, anti-post wise.
I just realised as you were talking that I hadn't checked the weather for Goodwood and whether they were due any rain, and they are, and potentially quite a bit on the Thursday, which changes things a little as well. So that needs to sort of be factored into everybody's thinking.
Lean towards, Seagulls 11 would be very interesting if it rains, won't he?
And also, I mean, Boiling Point will handle some cuts in the ground, and also Zavateri would handle cuts in the ground. And would Cheyenne, I suppose, is my question mark. Yeah, because he's very. I mean, I think he's a great horse. My lingering view about this, my overarching view is, I don't want to be backing Distance Storm at 2-1 and 9-4.
No.
This is like a 5-2 on the field kind of. Right? That's what it feels like to me. It feels like Cheyenne, Seagulls 11, a best case scenario, Kirat, Zavateri, Boiling Point. They're all kind of in the mix and not very far from each other. And the next horses down from them really aren't very far from them either. And this is Goodwood, so things can tip things in a different direction. So I won't be backing Short Umber going anywhere near a 2-1 for Distance Storm. I think if I had to, I mean, Seagulls 11 did finish with heat stress, didn't he, after the Sussex Stakes, but was fine the following day. I think if I was choosing one right now, I would go for Boiling Point. Yeah. But I would be waiting to see, and it might even be the kind of race whereby I take a position when I know the ground maybe at the deck stage, and I might have another go not long before the race is off, because something is going to go off at a silly price that has a very, very strong chance here. I mean, even Nakib, I think, might be flying slightly high. I think he could easily be very underestimated and end up a silly price just before the off. Yeah,
because he was a non-runner in that conditions race at Glorious Goodwood that ended up being like the hottest conditions race that was around. I imagine that was on ground because it was rattling fast.
And he was taken out at the weekend as well. I think he was due to run in the Strentzel, and I'm not sure what that was. Temperature maybe, I can't remember.
I mean, Goodwood is just adds a whole extra quirk to the entire picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a load of them that like it though in this race.
I mean, they're well placed. A lot of them have obviously planned this out, which, you know, if you are a Goodwood specialist, it's a great way to go, because and like I say, if it rains there, and I mean, the thing is, it can rain there 5 minutes before, right? You know, like it's you can watch the weather roll in horror or not, depending on which way you want it, and it can change in a minute, can't it? Like you say, Goodwood is almost a hard track to just look ahead at, isn't it? Alone, because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Was there anything else that took your eye at the weekend? I feel like I need to speak about the August Stakes at Windsor for the fact that we've got Constitution Hill that entered and could run.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, it's 7-2. You've got the likes of Al Arzi in there at 100 to 30 as well.
Do you know, I hadn't thought about it. Go on, keep talking, and I'll get to speed.
Let me go through the go through the betting. So we'll have our Constitution Hill chat at
the
this
inevitable
stage.
Constitution
The
Hill
inevitable.
chat. Yeah, okay.
If I can find where we are betting wise. So Al-Azi 130, Constitution Hill 7-2, Arabian Crown 4-1, Tenability 4-1, and Ghostwriter 9-2. Obviously 7-1 bar. Now a lot has been made around where he'll next run and targets to go forward. But it's whether you do believe that he is a genuine group level horse on the flat. And I'd be interested to hear your opinion.
I think he could be a listed Group 3 horse if he improves.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Weather forecasting, winds are going to get rain.
I feel like,
shouldn't that be more what I'm looking at, like, given my previous roles? But I've got good radar on my phone, actually. I'm completely with you. I'm really glad you've just said that about Constitution Hill. It's something I've felt very strongly about, is that, I think listed in Group 3 is probably his place. I understand the hype around it because of who he is and what he has done over
He's
jumps.
a cut-through star, isn't he, of our sport?
But I find it very difficult when everyone gets so behind a horse that hasn't proven themselves yet. It's lovely to see, and yet then we cut down animals that, like, we're talking about Notable Speech, who time and time again has proved it, and then we're like, but then Constitution Hill, we won at Southall,
we'll get the
we can get some good prices on the others. Though.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
he does open up the rest of the field for us.
It does. I mean, he would have to improve a lot to win a Group 3, and he'd have to. And this is very tough. Which weather app do you use? I'm using YR.no, the Norwegian.
Oh yeah, the Norwegian one is very, very good. Yeah. And then I've got a wet and windy radar as well that does the radar come across. That's very good.
Maybe
that's our secret Clark weapon.
Share that with me later. 20 mils apparently on Thursday potentially. So Nicky Henderson might get the kind of ground that he wants. But he's up against El-Azi. And El-Azi is a proper horse.
And I felt really bad because I was at Goodwood working with Racing TV the day that he ran there, and I thought he then came there to win his race and did El-Azi from 5 years ago and kind of thought about it. And then the sectionals popped up on the Race IQ data, and I went, can I retract that statement, please? Because he did a lot of running to get involved, and then just got tired late on. So it was one of those ones when you're on air and you think, oh, okay, I'm going to have this opinion, and the data comes through 30 seconds, and you have to go to the listeners. I'm really sorry. I think I was wrong there.
But it's right. I mean, we all, that's a great way to say that's what your eyes tell you. You can only say what you see, can't you? Yeah. And then you get more evidence, and you change your mind with more evidence. That's just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he definitely sets the standard. That is again, when I was looking at the markets, I was like, okay, please tell me that Constitution Hill is going to be about 7-4, and then I can have a couple of each way bets against him. But no, those Bet365 traders seem to have got this right. They've got this right in mind.
And I can just pick so many over and above him.
Yeah.
So many, like, even you look down Ghostwriter, obviously a formidable force in the past, and it's nice to see him back. You can make a case for quite a few of these way above Constitution Hill.
Tenability, Sea Scout,
ambient friendly even. It's there's a lot more. I mean, ambient friendly's been a bit. It'd be interesting to see how he goes in this. Actually, it'd be nice to see him come back to slightly more. And I feel like Windsor might be a slightly more friendly track to a quirky horse. You can saddle in the stables, come down fairly late, round and out. Where actually a lot of these big tracks, it's a lot of the prelims of the stressful part, aren't they? So I feel like as the prelim side of things with ambient friendly, that will be definitely very suitable to him. It would be nice to see him back in in some sort of a form that he has been previously, but has been running in, they're well proven horses against a completely unproven horse, aren't they?
I mean, I'm now starting to feel a bit mean about Constitution. I mean, I do want to stress that he is a cut-through star, and the fact that people want us to come and see him race is a great thing. And he was very, very good at Southall. He just didn't enhance that at Kempton.
Was there anything else that you want to mention for over the weekend that's not your best bet?
Yes.
Okay.
So it is. Oh, that's not a best bet. It's interesting. That's a very good question. I hadn't considered that. No, I'll save it for the best bet. Good point, Steve.
Katie?
No, yeah, I'm happy with what we've covered.
Excellent. That brings to an end our weekend preview. We'll be back shortly for our best bets of the weekend. But before we get into our best bets of the weekend, just to let you know that Bet365's position payout offer. Go to any horse race that offers the position payout market. Each selections will display a return for finishing second, first, second, third, fourth, and so on. Place your bet, and the higher your selection finishes, the higher your payout. And as always, terms and conditions apply. Katie, Racing Weekly debut have been great. We're just going to send the viewers and listeners away with your best bet of the weekend.
So my best bet for the weekend is definitely going to be Quirat. He's a Sussex winner. I think we're all forgetting that from last year. Got back to winning ways, don't forget, this year in the Criterion at York at the end of June. I know he likes Lead will be handy, and that really wasn't the place to be in the Lennox this year, and I feel like that really hampered him with the first two home coming from way off the pace. He seemed to set that up for them beautifully. I'll ignore the Sussex because he'd ran the day before in the Lennox. That's a huge ask, and I just think he is more than capable in this company if he's anywhere near his best ability.
Perfect. So Quirat at 8-1 current odds with Bet365 in the Celebration Mile. Lydia, for you?
So I'm going to Goodwood for the staying handicap, obviously the 420, 14 furlongs. I think that Hermetic has shaped really well. I like the look of him at York. I thought that he travelled in a way and looked beforehand in the paddock as though he would progress during the season. Since then, he's been tried at 2 miles. I'm not sure that's what he wants. And I think a drop by 2 furlongs in trip is going to suit him really well. And this kind of company as well, which is a lesser grade than he's been knocking his head against all season, I think that can see him win. So it's Hermetic for Ian Williams in the 420 at Goodwood.
Amazing. And mine will come in the 2:15 at Sandown. It's the Zinn frontrunner finish handicap over 1 mile and 2, and it's My Love Is King, who's currently available at 4-1 with Bet365. Won his only start last season for John and Thady Gosden, was a net behind Maltese Cross on his reappearance, was then second to Ancient Egypt in a listed race at Newmarket, was then favourite for the London Gold Cup, was a non-runner before then, and then was pitched into Group 3 level in the Hampton Court at Royal Ascot. Now makes his handicap debut off a mark of 96. Rab Havlin is jocked up, and I thought he was the most talented in that field. It's currently available at 4-1. Thank you very much for joining us this week on Racing Weekly, a show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Many thanks to both Katie and Lydia for joining me this week. As always, if you liked what you've watched or heard on this episode or any of our previous episodes, then please leave us a kind review on YouTube or Apple Podcasts. And Rishi and I will be back next week to preview the Haydock Sprint Cup card. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.